BBC World Service. Theatre of the Air. In the Silver Jubilee year of Queen Elizabeth II, we present Victoria Regina by Laurence Housman, with Jane Wenham as the Queen. On the 23rd of January, 1901, the Times newspaper published an obituary notice of Her late Majesty Victoria, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, Queen, Defender of the Faith, Empress of India.
To tell the story of Queen Victoria is to relate the history of Great Britain during a period of great events, manifold changes, and unexampled national prosperity. Her practical influence helped in large measure to make this such a memorable epoch. King William IV died at about 2 a.m. on the 20th of June, 1837. And within the hour, Dr. Howley and the Marquis of Cunningham had arrived at Kensington Palace.
Say, His Grace the Archbishop of Canterbury and Lord Cunningham are here to see Her Royal Highness the Princess Victoria on important business.
Yes, my lord.
Well, hurry, man, hurry.
Yes, my lord. But I'll have to call the maid first.
Well, call her.
Yes, my lord. But the maids are asleep, and they will not want to awaken the princess.
But say Her Royal Highness must come.
Yes, my lord.
At once. Good Lord, what a house. Sleeps with the old cat, does she?
I beg your pardon.
I beg yours. Yes, I suppose one oughtn't to say that now. Well, we must get her married. And then, married to the right man, the difference won't so much matter. Her cousin, Prince George of Cambridge, would be very suitable. Same age, and can talk English now, so I'm told, like a native.
Over that you will have difficulty with the Duchess. Oh. The Duchess has privately planned a marriage to her own liking, I'm told.
Eh? Who?
She has 2 nephews, through her brother, the Duke of Saxe-Coburg, Prince Ernest and Prince Albert.
But that won't do. Tainted blood.
Indeed?
Yes. Bleeding skins. Hemophilia. It's in the family. Cousins.
But Prince George is her cousin also.
Ah, but it's not on that side.
Your Grace, my Lord Cunningham, you have news for us?
For Her Royal Highness the Princess, we have news, madam.
The King, then?
Is dead.
Then my daughter is now.
Queen. Your Grace, she's coming.
You sent for me?
Your Majesty. It is our painful duty to announce to Your Majesty...
Oh, my daughter, she's Queen. Mamma. Oh, my child.
You come to tell me that I am Queen, but really Queen now? Before I have been crowned?
Yes, now, at once. The King is dead. You are Queen. The Privy Council assembled at Kensington at 10 o'clock, and the usual oaths were administered to the Queen by Lord Chancellor Cottenham, after which all present did homage. Lord Melbourne was Prime Minister at the time. The reproach against him could be for his want of nerve. His policy was one of hand-to-mouth expedients. His ministry was weak in finance. Lord Melbourne was an amiable, warm-hearted man. But there was a double danger that a man of such winning character might either yield too much to the court, or by the charm of his manner domineer over the sovereign and give her mind to his party.
Pray be seated, Lord Melbourne.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
How do you begin the day, Lord Melbourne?
I rise from my bed, ma'am, and then I ride in the park. When I come home, I write. So I begin with the 3 R's.
But right begins with a W.
I am corrected, ma'am. Right does begin with a W. Your Majesty is right, as usual.
Oh, you are so funny, Lord Melbourne.
There is one thing which Your Majesty graciously deigned to mention the other day. You then said, ma'am, with a courage which I thought remarkable in one so young, some day we must marry. Has Your Majesty given that matter any further thought?
Oh, yes, Lord Melbourne, I have thought of it a great deal.
Is Your Majesty prepared yet to take me into Your Majesty's gracious confidence?
You mean?
As to the possible recipient of so overwhelming an honor.
Oh, I have not thought of any person in particular. I mean, I have made no decision.
Oh, quite so. The conditions, ma'am, for a suitable consort to Your Majesty's throne are necessarily special and particular. I might say even peculiar. He must, of course, be of royal blood. On the other hand, he must not be the direct or likely heir of any foreign king or reigning prince.
Well, and what more?
It would be well, ma'am, if he had some means of his own, although they need not be large. Parliament will provide whatever addition is necessary. He must have presence suited to his station, and also a certain amount of brain, but not too much. He must not expect to interfere in politics.
Oh, indeed, no. I should never allow it.
And finally, he must have health and a sound constitution. He must, that is to say, come of good stock. And that, ma'am, has been our main difficulty. Good stock in the royal families of Europe is rare.
Oh, please explain, for I don't quite understand. Good stock? I thought that meant cattle.
Well, it does, ma'am, in certain connections, but it also means what comes from father to son. Now, for that reason, in the list I'm about to submit, I have not included, though it was suggested to me, 2 of Your Majesty's cousins, who might otherwise have been desirable candidates. Their Serene Highnesses Prince Ernest and Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha.
Oh, but they both looked quite strong and healthy when I last saw them 2 years ago.
Apparently, ma'am, but appearances are sometimes deceptive. Here is the list.
How kind you always are to me, Lord Melbourne. What a lot you are teaching me.
What a lot you are teaching me. I have served under older sovereigns, under 2. But I have never served under one who'd listened to advice so wisely and so well.
Goodbye, Lord Melbourne.
No.
I pay great attention to everything that you say, and I shall continue to take your advice whenever I find it possible. Goodbye.
Party strife commenced soon on the matter of the marriage. Ministers were accused, in all seriousness, of trying to win Irish votes by dallying with the idea of a Catholic marriage. They got a pointed reminder from the press that the throne would become vacant if such a project were carried out. In 1836, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg, who was born in the same year as his future wife, had come to England on a visit with his father and his brother Ernest. His handsome face, gentle disposition, and playful humor had produced a favorable impression upon the princess. In 1839, the visit was repeated.
Won't you sit down, Albert?
You are very kind, cousin. Ever since we came. To both of us, I mean.
I am very fond of Ernest.
Yes, so am I.
You've always been together, haven't you?
We've never been apart yet.
How very nice that has been for both. Would it be a great trial to you to have to live away from him?
Of course, the parting would be a trial, but one would get used to it as to other things, if it had to be.
Oh, my life has been so different from yours. I have never had anyone always with me like that, one of my own age. All my life I have been so much alone, except, of course, with Mama. I don't know what it can be like to have a brother.
One gets very fond of a brother.
Oh, yes. But one can get fonder of someone else. Can one not?
It happens. Sometimes.
Albert, I have something to say to you.
Yes. What is it, cousin?
In my position, it is I who have to say it, unfortunately. Ordinarily, it is not what a woman would wish to say herself. She would rather... He said it.
Is there anything you wish me to say that I can say?
If you could say that you love me, that would be almost like heaven.
I do love you, cousin.
Enough to marry me?
More than enough to marry you. For people in our position often marry without any love at all.
I couldn't do that. Albert.
Nor could I. Victoria.
Then... will you marry me?
If it is still your wish, when you know me, I will, very gratefully and humbly, accept this dear hand that you offer me.
When I know you?
Yes, for I too have something to say.
Oh, don't tell me if it is anything I shouldn't wish to know, Albert.
But I must. My brother Ernest and I had the same mother, but not the same father.
I don't understand.
I'm sorry you should have to. My mother and my father, Ernest's father, separated after I was born. They did not love each other. My mother must have loved someone else.
While she was married? Before you were born? Or after?
I don't know. So neither do I know who I am. Perhaps I shall never know. Yet, there must still be someone who could tell me, more than I have been able to tell you. Shall I... Do you wish me to go now? I had to tell you this.
Oh, yes, of course.
Then, you wish me to go?
Oh, no. I wish you to stay. It makes no difference to me. It is not your father that I shall marry. It is you.
My very dear cousin. My sweet wife that is to be.
Aren't you going to kiss me?
If I may.
Again, please. Again.
Pray God, you do not ever have to repent of this.
Repent? Oh, how could I repent? It is not in my nature, Albert. Besides, there isn't going to be time. We must be married quite soon. Everybody expects it. Albert, listen. That is the band of my Royal Life Guard. I gave orders for it to be here this morning an hour earlier so that we might hear it before we came down. I thought you might like it.
Oh, yes, it is very good music.
What is it they are playing?
That, my Vicky, is Mendelssohn's Wedding March, from his new setting to Shakespeare.
Mendelssohn? Oh, I'm so glad. He is one of the world's great composers, is he not? I have never heard it before, but now it is going to be my favorite piece. Oh, Albert. Oh, isn't it wonderful? We really are married now, aren't we?
Yes, Weibchen, I think so.
Yesterday seems almost like another world, so different. All the crowds and the cheering and the firing and the bells and thousands of people all looking at us as if we belong to them, as of course in a way we do. And now we're all by ourselves, all alone. Just we two.
Yes, all alone. Just we two. Shall I be able to make you happy, you think? You are happy.
Oh, happy. Oh, so happy. I can't tell you, Albert. And to think, this will go on and on for years and years.
Lord Melbourne may have failed as a party leader, but not as a Queen's minister, and it may be questioned whether a statesman of far mould would have succeeded so well in making rough places smooth for Prince Albert. But there is no doubt that the rough places existed.
Will you please go and send the prince to me? It is 10 o'clock. He ought to be here.
You did not think that I had forgotten?
No, I only thought that you were a little late, as you are.
Just 1 minute. I do not yet quite know to realize how long at Windsor it shall take to get from one place to another.
It is all very grand and large, is it not? But that is what we in our position have to put up with.
Would it not be rather nice to make one corner of it our own?
How do you mean our own? It is all ours.
More private, where no one can come but ourselves. I mean, during the day.
But we are quite private enough here, are we not?
No. At any moment, someone comes and knocks. One of your ladies or secretaries. I mean a room, a suite, all private to itself, where, when you have seen your ministers and all the rest, we can go in together and not be disturbed by anyone, where it is known that, except on something urgent, no one shall come.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Where by ourselves, you could sing to me, and I could play to you, and read to you.
Oh, yes, Albert. That is just what I should love. I will have it all arranged for.
Will you not let me do it my own way?
You think I shall not do it as you wish, Albert?
Oh, not so at all. But this I would just like to do myself. At present it seems there is so little that I may do.
But you do a great deal, dearest. Everything that I want you to do.
Yes, and that is all.
And am not I a good wife?
Ah, Weibchen, so long as you do not repent of it.
You are happy, Albert?
I will be more than happy so long as serving you I am able to make a life worth living. But you must let me serve you, not feel myself useless.
Useless?
Sometimes I feel that I am put not quite in the corner, but on the shelf. Just a little.
Oh, who does that?
You, my dear.
But I worship you, Albert.
Too much. Let me come down to earth a little now and then. Give my hands and brain something to do, so that I may be able to respect myself. Am I only your plaything,
Albert.
All day. You work for hours with ministers and secretaries, and while they are with you, I may not come in. At the end of it, I see you worn out from doing it all alone, but I may not help you. You do not even speak. Sometimes there are things that are still doubtful how to decide, and I may not advise you. You do not ask me or tell me anything.
Albert, you do not understand. The English are so jealous. They don't know you as I know you. They still look upon you as a foreigner and are suspicious for fear I should let you advise me.
Am I never to help or advise you? Never? From your life's work, am I always to be shut out?
But you do help me so much.
Let me help you now.
How?
Let me see some of those papers that you spent so long over. I could read them for you and make a few notes. That would save you time.
Oh, but I must hear everything myself. That is what I am here for.
Do you suppose your ministers show you everything?
Why, of course.
Impossible. Government is not as simple as all that. They themselves have to rely upon others for much that has to be done, even in things for which they are responsible. Cannot you rely upon me a little?
Albert, dearest, you distress me. In every way that is possible, I do already rely on you. And always, in everything that I have to decide for you, I have only done it for your good.
Yes. The other day, I made an engagement. You cancelled it.
Yes, Albert, and I had a very good reason for doing so.
No doubt. But you did not speak to me about it.
But that was to spare your feelings.
But my secretary knew. When I questioned him why one engagement entered into my diary for this week had been struck out, he said he'd done so under instruction.
You were going to dine, he told me, with a foreign minister. It would have been in the papers. My government did not wish that just now any member of the royal family should pay him such a compliment.
You see, I'm told nothing of your relations with foreign countries. I see only what appears in the newspapers. Not only you do not give me your confidence, but you have me watched. Tomorrow, I'm going to choose another secretary for myself.
Oh, Albert, you are making a great mistake.
Repairing one. I ought to have done this before.
Oh, you are not to do it, Albert. I say you are not to.
Then, for the present, I leave you.
Where are you going?
In here. To my own room, to write my letters alone.
Albert! Open the door! Albert, open the door!
Who is that speaking?
Her Majesty the Queen.
Her Majesty the Queen must wait.
Oh,
Who is there?
Your wife, Albert. You poor, unhappy little wife.
Oh,
Oh,
Hudson, don't cry. Don't cry. It's all right.
The idea in which the exhibition of 1851 originated was in keeping with the religious tolerance and the large-minded views of human progress, which Prince Albert always evinced.
I have some plans to show you. See?
What are these, Albert?
The designs for the building of the great exhibition, which the Royal Commission has accepted, if you agree. Mr. Joseph Paxton, the architect, has had a wonderful idea for it, quite new. It is to be all of glass.
Of glass, Albert? But won't it break?
Not if it is put into a frame, a metal frame, like a window. But this will be all window, not a solid wall anywhere. Look well at it. For this, perhaps, is what modern architecture is going to be.
Oh, how beautiful. Oh, and how wonderful. Oh, glass. Oh, how it will light up when the sun shines on it.
Yes. If all goes well, it may become the symbol of your reign, my dear, and of England, leading the world to peace.
And when it does, then it will be your doing, Albert. Where is it going to be?
In Hyde Park, if you will agree. To be in a royal park, it must first have your permission. You approve?
Of course. I think it is going to be one of the most wonderful buildings in the world, yes, and the most beautiful. And the exhibition itself will be one of the most wonderful things in history. And the invention and the planning of it, all yours. I have always wanted this country to be as great in the arts as in industry and commerce, and now it is going to be, thanks to you. Oh, if only my people could know what you are doing for them, how happy we should be.
We will still be as happy as we can, Weibchen. And perhaps someday more shall come of it.
At the time of the Great Exhibition, the Foreign Secretary was Lord Palmerston, and the Prime Minister was Lord John Russell.
Lord John Russell, Your Majesty.
Good morning, Lord John.
Your Majesty? Lord John?
I am glad that you have been able to come so soon.
Instantly upon receiving Your Majesty's command.
It is a very unpleasant subject that I have to speak to you this morning.
I rather feared so, Your Majesty.
Yes. After hearing from you yesterday that Lord Palmerston had told you almost nothing about the way in which he has been treating me, I felt that I must see you at once.
I'm sorry, ma'am, that there should have been any misunderstanding.
It is hardly a misunderstanding, Prime Minister. It has happened too often. I am now obliged to regard it as willful disobedience.
I'm sure, ma'am, that Lord Palmerston never so intended it.
Then he has let his lack of intention become a habit, which I cannot allow.
Will Your Majesty be good enough to give me the full particulars of what Your Majesty has to complain of?
I will ask the Prince to read you the memorandum which he has made for me dealing with the whole matter. We have gone into it together very thoroughly.
I am Your Majesty's most attentive servant.
I will begin first, Lord John Russell, by reminding you of the previous occasions on which Her Majesty has had to complain of Lord Palmerston's actions and inattentions as Foreign Secretary. They cover a very considerable period.
I was under the impression, sir, that those previous occurrences had already been discussed and settled satisfactorily.
Not satisfactorily. If there is any recurrence of the misconduct complained of.
Misconduct is a hard word, sir.
It is an accurate one. Her Majesty has found herself forced, or at least pressed, by her Prime Minister to accept explanations which she did not think satisfactory.
I am not aware, sir, that I have ever brought pressure to bear upon Her Majesty in offering my humble advice.
Advice without pressure on a difficult problem, Lord John, is rather like an engine without steam. I think I am not wrong in saying that Her Majesty is now putting pressure upon you, legitimate pressure. It is only of illegitimate pressure that Her Majesty would complain.
If Your Highness would kindly specify any undue pressure of which I've been guilty, I should know better where I am. If what I have done ever seems to take on so serious a complexion, my resignation is always at Her Majesty's disposal.
It is not your resignation, Lord John, that Her Majesty thinks necessary. We all make mistakes, But a mistake willfully made and willfully repeated, that cannot be tolerated.
If Your Highness...
Just a moment, Lord John. I will put you in possession of all the points that Her Majesty wishes you to consider. That factor of willfully repeated disobedience being the most important. And now we come to the most grave matter of all. We have been faced in France by the violent accomplishment of a coup d'etat, which has shocked the moral sense of the whole country. Pending a further decision, Her Majesty's ambassador in Paris was instructed to maintain an attitude of strict aloofness, and by no word to express either approval or acceptance of what has taken place. Behind his back, and without a word of advice to Her Majesty, Lord Palmerston has written a letter of encouragement to the new government, and Lord Normanby, our ambassador, only hears of it by accident. Her Majesty now says that this cannot go on, and she wishes to know what you are prepared to do in the matter.
I must admit, Your Majesty, that Lord Palmerston's precipitate action on this occasion is greatly regretted by the whole, or at least by a large majority, of Your Majesty's government. And having now been informed so fully of Your Majesty's mind, I will see Lord Palmerston again and represent to him how very gravely, in Your Majesty's view, the matter stands.
What you propose to do has my full approval.
If it is Your Majesty's pleasure, I will do that at once. And I will, as soon as possible, come back and report to Your Majesty the result of our interview. It isn't well at all, Palmerston. I'm afraid that this time you've done it.
Oh, you've been giving me away, have you?
You've given yourself away. I've warned you. I've warned you.
Yes, and I warned you. You wouldn't take my warning, I wouldn't take yours. So far we're a match, but there it stops. Same government, opposite camps.
Opposite, eh?
Yes. It's the battle of constitutional government I've been fighting, and not one of you had the guts to back me up.
You know, about this French business, you're all wrong.
Am I? Do you suppose that coup d'etat is not going to succeed?
I'm afraid it has succeeded.
Quite so. Well, the only proper policy for this country in foreign affairs is not to let anyone do a damned thing we don't want them to do if we can help it. But to put a cheerful face on it if we can't. I'm a peaceful, easy-going fella. Hate trouble. Don't like giving trouble to others. I'm charitable in my judgments, fond of my fellow men, so long as they aren't Germans. Oh, by God. If Albert had been on the front opposition bench, he'd have got it out before now. Me, anyway. Lord, how he hates me. Oh, but the fellow's got a brain and works like 4 cart horses. He's made me work, you know. Again and again. I'd have to be out of my bed by 10 o'clock in the morning to write those damn dispatches he thinks he's got to correct before the mail goes.
So, getting out of bed has sometimes been the trouble, has it?
Well, can you wonder? One can't keep the hours of a gentleman since he got the pull of things. Ah, it's a pity, John, it's a pity. She's not the same woman she was now. She's a deteriorated character.
Indeed. I should have said rather the reverse.
Ah, you didn't go to court as early as I did. In old Mel's day, she used to listen to stories and jokes she won't listen to now. Mel used to tell them, so did I. And egad, how she laughed at them. But after she got him, Lord, if I'd tried to tell one of my old stories then, she'd have ordered me out of the room.
But what am I to say, Palmerston?
Say what you damn well like. What should you like to say? What do you want to say?
I would like to say, if possible, that if, owing to certain irregularities inadvertently committed, you have failed to give satisfaction in the discharge of your duties as Foreign Secretary, you once more express your sincere regret. And further, that if, upon my recommendation, it were Her Majesty's pleasure, you would be willing to accept a change of office.
Oh, indeed? What office?
Lord Lieutenant of Ireland.
Well, I'll be damned if I do.
Then, my dear Palmerston, I have no alternative but to ask for your resignation.
Oh, and what does the Cabinet say to that?
I have consulted 7 members of the Cabinet. They all agree.
7. And yourself 8, eh? So you've got a majority. Very well. Shall I write it now?
Please.
The year 18 one was the saddest in the Queen's life.
Dr. Clark.
Your Royal Highness?
I must speak to you before Mamma comes. How is Papa?
Very much the same. The change we are hoping for hasn't come yet.
Will it?
Oh, undoubtedly, undoubtedly. At least we must hope so.
Dr. Clark, Mamma does not know, doesn't in the least realize how ill Papa really is. She won't listen to any of us. She must be told. And it's only you who can tell her.
I assure your Highness that I have given Her Majesty my confidence as fully as she has given me hers, which is saying a great deal. When she asks me, I tell her everything that I know. What I am not certain about, I don't say to anyone.
But have you told Mamma that he is dangerously ill?
Dangerously? It's a frightening word. Therefore, I don't use it. He will be waiting presently, and when he does, Her Majesty wishes to be told immediately.
How are you, my dearest? Better?
I don't know. I'm much worse.
But you are not feeling worse, my darling, are you?
No. I don't know. I don't know. Action. Kiss me. Kiss me.
Oh.
Again. Once again. Rauschen. Kleines Rauschen.
Papa is awake now, Doctor. Mamma is with him.
Ah, I'm glad. That will do him more good than anything. It always does. But I think Her Majesty wished to speak to me. Would your Highness very kindly...
Mamma, Dr. Clark is here.
You may go in now, Alice, my dear. Shut the door. Dr. Clark, how do you find him this morning?
No change, ma'am. No change. I'm disappointed not to find the improvement that I was looking for.
He is going to get well, isn't he?
I have not a doubt, ma'am. Not a doubt.
Nor have I, Dr. Clark. If I had, I couldn't bear it. But there are others here who haven't my confidence and courage. I feel it is very trying. His knowing me and speaking to me again has given me such hope.
Call the doctor, quick.
Is he worse?
Your Royal Highness. Oh, here is Dr. Clark. I will arrange for Her Majesty to be sent for at once. Dr. Clark, may I have a word with you? Send word at once. Say that their Royal Highnesses are to come immediately. Dr. Clark has just told us that there is no hope.
The prince had been such a great and good man, so lovable, so perfect in all his duties as husband and father, so tender as well as constant in his affections, so essentially the lover, guide, and comforter of his wife. But his death left a void in the Queen's life which nothing could ever fill.
Yes?
Mrs. Gladstone, Your Majesty.
Oh, yes, let her come in. And while she is here, I do not wish to see anyone.
Mrs. Gladstone, Your Majesty.
Oh, dear Mrs. Gladstone, how good of you to come so soon.
Directly. When I got Your Majesty's command, I was so grateful that Your Majesty wished it.
There are very few I wish to see now, Mrs. Gladstone, but you were one. You have always been so kind to me.
Oh, I understand how Your Majesty must feel. And I won't talk about time making any difference. But memories will. Your Majesty will find a great comfort in memories, presently.
Thank you, Mrs. Gladstone. I hope so, too. But I already remember so much. As I read his diaries and his dear letters. Everything seems like yesterday.
Yes. When we have loved much, time seems hardly to mean anything.
Oh, you say the very thing I have been trying to say to myself, Mrs. Gladstone, and to believe. It's a comfort to hear someone else saying it. And, of course, now he remembers everything, too. So, in memory, we are together. Still?
Yes, ma'am. And of one so really good as he was. What lovely and comforting memories you must always have with you.
In all our married life, we were hardly ever apart. At first, he was not with me so constantly. I had not found out then how much more he was fit to be king than I was to be queen. And people were jealous and afraid, lest he should have too much influence over me. He was always at my side, helping, advising, directing, guiding, often saving me from making mistakes, and my ministers also. As time went on, they also learned to listen to him and wished him to be present in all our consultations. And now he has gone and I am alone, and although people don't know it, a new reign has begun. A queen without her king. What shall I do without him?
Is it not possible, ma'am, your son, the prince, now being of age, that he may be of some help to Your Majesty?
Oh, no, indeed, Mrs. Gladstone. He has not either his father's mind nor his father's character. I cannot allow him to take any part at present in my responsible work at government.
I think he has a very kind heart, Your Majesty.
He does not feel his father's death as he should. I wish we could have talked longer. It would have done me good, I'm sure. He must come again. Soon.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Your Majesty has only to send for me. We all wish that we could do anything that might be of use or comfort to Your Majesty. But even love feels helpless sometimes.
It is the only thing that can help now that has helped me at all. Goodbye.
With Mr. Gladstone, every molehill difficulty became a mountain. With Mr. Disraeli, later Lord Beaconsfield, mountains became passable or were circumvented. Lord Beaconsfield, who from 1868 alternated in office with Mr. Gladstone, possessed another art which was denied to his rival. He knew how to secure the personal regard, even the affection of his sovereign. Not, we may be sure, by the methods of gross flattery that his enemies used to attribute to him, but by tact, consideration, and the power of leading the Queen to believe that he was inspired by a passionate patriotism. Whether at Buckingham Palace or at Balmoral, he was welcome.
Was Your Majesty wanting anything? Or were you doing only for the fun?
Put another chair, Brian.
Well, now, what kind of chair are you wanting, ma'am? Is it to put your feet on?
No. It is to put a visitor on. Choose a nice one with a lean back.
With a lean back. Oh, you mean one that you can lean back in? Oh, what talk folk will bring up with them from the south, to be sure. No. Will this one do, ma'am?
Oh, yes. Quite a nice one, yes, Brian. Well, now I must go to my work again. I have writing to do. See that I am not disturbed.
Oh, then when were you wanting to see your visitor, ma'am? There's his chair waiting, and I can see him out there in the garden, talking to the princess.
What? Before he has seen me? Go and take him away from the princess and tell him to come here.
I will, ma'am.
And you had better take him up with you. He wants his walk.
Yes, ma'am. Come up, man, come. Come and tell his lordship that he's wanted.
Oh, how do you do, my dear Lord Beaconsfield? Good morning, and welcome to Balmoral.
That word from Your Majesty brings all its charms to life. What a prospect of beauty I see around me.
You have had a long, tiring journey, I fear. I hope you are sufficiently rested.
Refreshed, ma'am. Rest will come later.
Oh, my dear Lord, pray sit down. I had that chair specially put for you. Generally, I sit here quite alone.
Such kind forethought, ma'am, overwhelms me.
Well. And how is everything?
Ma'am, there is almost nothing to tell. Politics, like the rest of us, have been taking holiday.
I thought Mr. Gladstone had been speaking.
Oh, yes. He has been speaking.
In Edinburgh, quite recently.
And in more other places that I can count. Speaking. You must have had some interesting conversations with him, ma'am, in the past.
I have never once had a conversation with Mr. Gladstone in all my life, Lord Beaconsfield. He used to talk to me as if I were a public meeting, and one that agrees with him, too.
Was there then any applause, ma'am?
No, indeed. I was too shy to say what I thought. I used to cough sometimes.
Rather like coughing at a balloon, I fear. But, ma'am, I'm not here to relieve the tedium of a life made lonely by a bereavement equal to your own. In conversation, however beguiling, obedient to your summons, I come today to be consulted as Your Majesty's First Minister of State.
No, dear Lord Beaconsfield, not today. Those official matters can wait. Today I would rather talk to you as a friend. Tell me. You spoke of bereavement. I wish you would tell me more about your wife.
Ah, my wife. To her I owed everything.
She was devoted to you, wasn't she?
I never read the depth of her devotion till after her death. Then, ma'am, this I have told to nobody but yourself. Then I found among her papers, addressed to my dear husband, a message written only a few days before her death, with a hand shaken by that nerve-wracking and fatal malady which she endured so patiently, begging me to marry again.
Oh, dear Lord Beaconsfield, did you ever mean?
I did not then, ma'am, nor have I ever done so since. It is enough if I allow myself to love.
Oh, yes, I understand, for that has always been my own feeling.
Ma'am, will you permit me to kiss your hand? May I crave permission now, ma'am, to withdraw? For, to speak truly, I do need some rest.
Oh, yes, my dear friend, go and rest yourself. But before you go, will you not take a glass of wine with me?
I shall be honored, ma'am.
Pray help yourself, then.
I serve you, ma'am.
Thank you.
May I propose for myself a toast, ma'am?
Yes, Lord Beaconsfield.
The Queen, God bless her. To break the glass, ma'am, an old custom observed by loyal defenders of the House of Stuart, so that no lesser health might ever be drunk from the same vessel. To my old hand came a sudden access of youthful enthusiasm, an ardor which I could not restrain. Your pardon, ma'am.
Go and lie down, Lord Beaconsfield. You need a rest.
Adieu, ma'am.
Draw your curtains and sleep well. Oh, such devotion. Albert.
On March the 1st, 1894, Mr. Gladstone, aged 84, made what proved to be his last speech in the House of Commons.
Sir Henry, will you see that this letter goes to Lord Rosebery at once? And if later you could see him yourself, say I should be glad to have his answer today. This morning, if possible, before anything gets into the papers.
I will do my best, ma'am. Would Your Majesty prefer for me to go now? That would be the quickest way.
No. You must wait until I have seen Mr. Gladstone. I might want you again. I always find it so difficult to understand what he really means, and still more so now that he has become so deaf.
I don't think Your Majesty will have any difficulty in understanding him on this occasion.
Well, indeed, I hope not. Oh, of course it is going to be painful, but oh, Sir Henry, such relief.
Quite so, ma'am. That I can fully appreciate.
Then please see that that letter goes at once.
Mr. Gladstone is here, ma'am.
Oh, I will see him.
Mrs. Gladstone also, I'm told, has come with him.
Oh, poor thing. What a life he has led her, to be sure. Will you say that I will see her? Afterwards.
Mr. Gladstone, Your Majesty.
Good morning, Mr. Gladstone. This was not too early for you, I hope?
Far from it, Your Majesty. For the purpose which brings me here, by Your Majesty's gracious permission, the earlier the better, for all parties.
I was not thinking of parties, Mr. Gladstone. And now, Mr. Gladstone, I am ready to hear anything that you have to tell me.
I have already received Your Majesty's gracious permission to make resignation of my office as Prime Minister of Your Majesty's government. And Your Majesty has granted me this interview for the express purpose of placing in Your Majesty's hands this letter tendering that resignation, as in humble duty I now do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gladstone. Is there anything further you wish to say?
The reasons for my resignation, ma'am, are given in that letter. They are not political, they are personal. The government which at Your Majesty's command I formed 2 years ago has still, I believe, the confidence of the country, and in the House of Commons it continues to have a majority. Elsewhere, it is not so fortunate. But so long as it stood for policies approved by the electorate, it would have been my duty and my earnest endeavour to remain responsible under Your Majesty's commission for the carrying of these policies into law. But my physical powers have failed me. My eyesight and my hearing no longer enable me to fulfill adequately the duties which my office requires.
Thank you, Mr. Gladstone. I quite understand. I may say at once that the reasons that you have stated are quite sufficient. I accept your resignation.
About 53 years ago, ma'am, I first had the honour.
How much has happened since then, has it not? What changes?
We have indeed, ma'am, seen great changes in the life of the nation, as well as in our own.
Yes, and changes which have not always been for the better, I fear. Oh, goodbye, Mr. Gladstone. Will you please remember me very especially to dear Mrs. Gladstone? How is she?
Mrs. Gladstone is here, ma'am.
Ah, yes. Sir Henry told me, I remember.
She asked very specially if, by gracious permission, she may see Your Majesty for a few moments before we leave.
Certainly.
I believe she hoped she might see you alone, ma'am.
I shall be very pleased. Will you yourself take a message to her and ask her to come in? And before you go, I have ordered that there shall be some refreshment for you. Goodbye.
With most humble duty, I thank Your Majesty.
So, that is over. At last.
Mrs. Gladstone, Your Majesty.
Dear Mrs. Gladstone, I am so pleased to see you.
How good of Your Majesty to say so. I felt I had to come this last time.
Yes, of course, I understand. And do please sit down. This must be a very trying time for you.
Oh, not for me. It's for him. To have him give up before he's been able to finish what he so hoped and lived for.
But how much better, both for him and for you. And you must see now that he takes a complete rest. You won't let him touch politics again, will you, Mrs. Gladstone? Now, promise, sir.
Oh, Your Majesty, I wanted to say something especially, but it is so difficult.
I am sure, Mrs. Gladstone, anything you wish to say, I shall be willing to hear.
Well, it is something which I felt you ought to know, but I am the only one who can tell you. It has always been, ma'am, a great trouble to him, a great grief, that you could not approve of his policy.
But his policy was his own choice, Mrs. Gladstone.
Of course, ma'am. He could not do otherwise, feeling so sure that he was right.
But whatever his feelings were, Mrs. Gladstone, he did not consult mine.
Indeed, ma'am, his devotion to your Majesty was, and remains still, very great.
Since you say so, Mrs. Gladstone, I accept your word for it.
Will you let me tell him that you do believe?
If it is any comfort for you to tell him so, or for him to hear it, you may tell him that I do.
Oh, I am so grateful. So grateful that you will let me tell him that. And that you do really believe it.
Then go now and tell him at once. He is waiting. Goodbye. We shan't often meet again, I suppose. And I would like you to know that I shall always remember and think of you as a friend. Goodbye, dear Mrs. Gladstone. Oh, there you are, Sir Henry. Have you been with Mr. Gladstone?
No, ma'am. I was waiting in case your Majesty required me.
Have you any news yet from Lord Rosebery?
I have just received a message to say that his answer will be here in a few hours. He indicates, ma'am, that it may be yes.
It could hardly be otherwise. I would not have had anyone else. Had he declined, I should have insisted on a dissolution.
How did you find Mr. Gladstone, ma'am?
Very deaf, but able to talk as much as ever.
In September 1896, Her Majesty's reign had reached a point at which it exceeded in length that of any other English sovereign. It was obvious that the next year's celebration of the Diamond Jubilee, as it was popularly called, would exceed in magnificence even that of the Golden Jubilee of 1887. Was, in the strictest sense of the term, unique. Here was a display of the all-embracing extent of the British Empire. Here were not only Englishmen, Scotsmen, Irishmen, Welshmen, but mounted rifles from Victoria and New South Wales, from the Cape of Natal, from Our Lady of the Snows. There were Hausers from the Niger and the Gold Coast, men from the West India Regiment, Zaptia from Cyprus, Chinamen from Hong Kong, and Dayaks from British North Borneo. Here, most brilliant sight of all, were the Imperial Service troops sent by the Princes of India.
Mamma, dear, how are you?
Very tired, my dear, but oh, so happy. So glad I had the strength.
And the courage, Mamma, dear. You are quite wonderful.
Yes, so the doctor tells me. He has just felt my pulse and taken my temperature, and he says that he could not have believed it possible. Oh, I'm so thankful.
So is everybody. And now, Mamma, I think you'd better take a glass of wine. It will do you good.
Thank you.
And may we also drink to your good health, Mamma?
Certainly, why, yes, certainly. Oh, please, all of you. What is it?
Champagne, Mamma.
No. I shall have sherry. Thank you. How long has it taken?
Nearly 3 hours, Mamma.
Dear me. And it seems like yesterday and tomorrow. Almost. Yes, 3 hours.
Your Imperial and Royal Highnesses, I have great pleasure in asking you to drink to the health of Her Majesty the Queen. May she continue long in health and prosperity to enjoy the love of her children and her people. The Queen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Won't you go and rest now, Mamma?
Not yet. That cheering that I hear means that my dear people are expecting to see me again, and I must try not to disappoint them.
It would be nice if you could, Mamma. Do you think you can?
Yes, but I can't get up. I must go as I am. Have the windows opened. Over the balustrade, they will not be able to see me. I must be raised. Tell them to bring the sliding desk.
He's already in position, Mamma.
Really? Oh, how thoughtful. Now then, will you, Bertie, and some of the others go out and let them know that I am coming? Not too many, just a few.
Very well. Come along then, you, Alice, and you. 6 will be enough.
Now. That will do.
Windows may now be shut.
It is very gratifying, to find after all these years that they do appreciate all that I have tried to do for them, for their good, and for this great country of ours. We have been so near together today, they and I, all my dear people of England and Scotland, and Ireland, and the dear colonies and India. From all round the world I have had messages, such loyalty, such devotion. It's most gratifying. Well, I must go and dress now, or I shall not be able to take my place at dinner tonight, and that would never do. Oh, I'm so happy, so happy. As we were coming back, you were in front, Bertie, so perhaps you didn't see. It was just by Hyde Park Corner. There was a great crowd there, and a lot of rough men broke through the lines of police and troops lining the route, and they ran along beside my carriage, shouting and cheering me. And I heard them say, "Go it, old girl, you've done it well. You've done it well." Of course, it's unsuitable, the worst. So gratifying. So I hope it's true. I hope it's true. I'm still cheering. Oh, but... Oh, if only you could have been here.
Victoria Regina by Laurence Housman. Queen Victoria was played by Jane Wenham. Albert by John Castle. Gladstone was played by Lockwood West, and Mrs. Gladstone by Betty Bascomb. Palmerston, Garard Green. Melbourne, Manning Wilson. Russell, Brian Haines. At Beaconsfield, Denis McCarthy. Other parts were played by David Strong, Fleur Chandler, and other members of the cast. The narrator was Joan Hart. Technical presentation was by Brian Stevens, and the play was directed by John Pitman.